Hey, this is the Roundhouse Report, Jody Roundhouse. I had a video request from a user on minds.com. That's a social, it's like Facebook, but better because it doesn't censor you. Kestrel Black, Kestrel, minds.com/KESTRELBLACK. She made a badass sketch of me. She is one of the most talented artists I've ever seen. And she made a really cool sketch of me on my profile. Look at my profile picture on my channel. She made a sketch of that. And freehand is amazing. So in exchange, I'm making this video for her. She is curious about art, obviously. And so if you know anything about the Roundhouse Report, I don't talk about art. I talk about warfare and current events and news. But I do know about DaDa. DaDa was an art movement that emerged out of World War I in France. France had, if I recall correctly, France had 22 million dead after World War I. I believe it was 22 million just for France. Regardless, it was millions of dead Frenchmen and Englishmen and German, etc. But in France, DaDa emerged. And it was basically, it was an outgrowth. It was the youth who had survived. These artistic guys, I mean, they dodged the draft, so to speak, right? They, it grew out of like, look at what just happened to the entire generation of our contemporaries and how futile life is. So it's kind of nihilistic in that sense. I'm going to give you examples of some of their, quote, artwork. You'll get a kick out of this. Oh, by the way, please subscribe. And please tell your friends, Kestrel, have them watch this, because I'm sure you're friends with a lot of artists and they may dig this. Alright. I'm going to tell you some of them, but you're going to really have to Google it. Google DaDa art and then go to images, you know. First one, you know, they did this massive ad blitz. They would always do an advertising blitz in like Paris, you know, where it was based. Big blitz about some kind of a guest lecture, etc. So they these DaDa people, I don't know who supported them financially, but a lot of them are probably rich, and some of them didn't fight in World War I, so they could afford to rent out these like nice cinemas in freaking downtown Paris. Big ad blitz. They rented out a cinema. They filled it up. Dude came out on stage to deliver the lecture, pulls out a loaded handgun and emptied out his shots above the crowd. He went to the podium, he pulled out the gun, and he wasn't trying to kill anybody. It was well above their heads. They planned it out, but it was live ammo. Pop, 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 and everyone just freaked out. There weren't mass shootings back then in the 1920s. That's when the movement, in the early to mid-1920s. There wasn't stuff like that. The audience freaks out. He leaves the stage. That's the end of the show that they just paid to see. And then they use that money for the next show, right? The next show, again, massive ad blitz. Same thing, cinema, packed. These well-dressed and tuxedo ushers suddenly emerge from behind the curtains, and they go across the stage, and they go down the steps, and they go through the audience, and the audience is looking and wondering what's going on. And they go to the street, and again, this is like downtown Paris, and they prop open all the doors into the cinema, and then they go back behind the curtain, and then the audience sat there. See how uncomfortable that silence was? That continued and continued and continued, and finally it became clear that the art was in reality how can I phrase this? The art was the exposure of the reality of modern life in Paris at the time. They opened up the doors. You heard the hustle and bustle. You heard the honking of cars, which were relatively new at the time, relatively decade old. And the noise epitomized, I guess, a mood, or I don't know how to describe it, but it was more visceral. Everybody from the audience perceived it in a different way, but that was my explanation as a general gist. Number 3, again, massive ad blitz. They got caught on, people caught on eventually, but they got a lot of good art in before people caught on. Again, back then they didn't have internet and social media, so they weren't really, people didn't catch on to them for a while, but they were in the newspapers. A painter on another one of their things, they sold out a cinema in downtown Paris, nice and fancy. This is legit. This is for connoisseurs. It was for connoisseurs of artwork. Kestrel. These people were like people like you. It would be like they see an ad on a pole or something, the ad blitz newspaper, and there's there's going to be this famous artist from this other country, and he's going to come and teach a specific style of painting. So all these serious art connoisseurs descend upon this high-end, fancy gallery, a cinema complex, like a movie theater, but with a stage, not a screen. And a painter came out. He was very talented. And he spent about a full hour meticulously painting and explaining exactly what he was doing to the audience, they were rapt. They were very intrigued. Because he did know what he was doing. He was very talented. And then, after about an hour and a half, he had the whole audience wrapped with these new methods that he was teaching them. Suddenly, he goes behind the curtain for a second, bursts out with a gas can, douses his painting, and then sets it on fire and then runs off the stage. That was it. The crowd was like, what the fuck just happened? Excuse my language. All right, this is the final one. This is the best one, in my opinion. This guy had a party. It was his birthday. He invited his family. The guy being the DaDa artist. He invited his family. He invited his closest friends, relatives, loved ones. It's a big, big party on a beach. It was the Mediterranean, southern France. Southern France on the Mediterranean. Had to readjust. Woo. So, see, now minds.com won't censor that. So, YouTube probably will. Whatever. All right, so this guy has a huge party. Everyone's drinking. Everyone's feasting. Everyone's having a great time. Like a giant picnic on the shores of the Mediterranean. Probably very idyllic, very beautiful to paint, right? DaDa. Kind of ironic. It comes full circle because this guy suddenly gets on top of one of the tables and makes a big announcement. And there's about 200 people gathered. His loved ones, his friends, throughout his life. And this guy's like, what, in his mid-30s or so? 30s, late 20s. And he said, I am now going to unveil the trick, the art that I promised you all I would unveil at this party. Because that's what he had done beforehand. He'd said, come to my party, you're going to see my latest work of art. He goes to the shore, because they're right on the beach. His friends and family are watching. He has a canoe sitting there. He gets into the canoe. He starts to paddle out into the Mediterranean. And he's paddling out. So if this is him, he's paddling out. And they're watching, they're waiting, and they're excited. They're probably laughing, making jokes. And then he starts to get really small. And then they get confused and they start looking around, like maybe somebody's going to come up behind him and scare him or something. And then he disappears on the horizon, and him and his canoe were never seen again. That's DaDa, an offshoot of World War I. Kestrel, what I would like you to do is in the comment section here on YouTube, Please subscribe. Please have your friends subscribe and watch this. I want their response too, because I don't have anyone else who's an artist who can give me a response like this. What does this movement say to you? What do you think caused it? Because it is a direct offshoot of World War I. That is an established fact. It's like a lost generation of youth. They were like, what's the point? Similar to the beats of the 1950s in literature. What's the point after World War I or after World War II? On another offshoot. I can make a video on the beats. Kerouac, Ginsberg, Burroughs, William Burroughs. So DaDa, the final act, I want to know, and put in the comments here, put in the comments on Minds, but put them here though, so we have a steady spot where you and all your friends can comment, if you would do me the favor, so that I can learn and do better, and better understand myself, because I've thought of this and I don't quite get it. From an artistic point of view, what does that last piece of art, quote art, show to you? This guy rode out into the Mediterranean and was never seen again. He committed suicide. That was his piece of art. The big piece of art, the quote, he probably quoted it, the best of my life. I'm not sure about the quote though, but big piece of art to be unveiled. He killed himself. And he killed himself in such an ominous, eerie, weird, haunting way. He rode out into the middle of the ocean, the Mediterranean Sea, and he drowned. Everyone knows, he drowned. Knowing that, that's an awful way to die. He chose to do it. He committed suicide using just what kind of art, what kind of message was he conveying? Tell me, what message was he conveying by doing that? All right, this is the Roundhouse Report. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Let me know if you want me to make you a video. Anyone watching this? All right.